Yo, what's up, guys? This is your host, J Ruz, and welcome to not a podcast episode, but this is a regular YouTube video about the cameras that I use for my podcast channel and why I believe that they are the best cameras for podcasting. So, if you're a beginner podcaster and you're looking for cameras, these might be the best cameras for you. So, keep tuning in. All right, so these two cameras in front of me are the cameras that I use for the past 6 months or since episode 30 of this podcast channel. Currently, I have produced already 60 episodes, and I started using this around my 30th episode. So yeah, it's been 6 months, and I'm enjoying them so far. So these two cameras are cinema cameras. These are not just your typical mirrorless cameras. They are cinema cameras, but they are very old cinema cameras. So the cameras in front of me are on my right. This is the Canon C300, the original, the Mark 1. And this was announced in 2011. So it's been 14 years. So 2011, that's how old this camera is. So again, C300 Mark 1. And on the left, this is the Canon C100 Mark 1 as well. And it was announced in 2012, which makes it 13 years old. And by the way, I actually use 3 cinema cameras in this podcast, and one is actually recording right now, and that is the C100 Mark II, which is announced in 2014, which makes it 12 years old. And by the way, these cameras are sent by Canon to support this channel. So Canon, if you're watching or listening, thank you so much for all the support that you've given this channel and for myself personally. So again, Canon, thank you so much. So these are the reasons why I think these cinema cameras, the C300 and the C100, is the best podcasting cameras for you. All right, so first reason is small file sizes. All right, so these cameras produce incredibly small file sizes, mainly because they are not 4K, they are Full HD or 1080p camera. That's why their file sizes are quite small. And also they're very efficient. But I mean, you're comparing it to like a mirrorless cameras. Before I was using the R3 and the R5 for shooting my podcast, and they give me huge, massive file sizes. Even though I was shooting only in 1080p, they still give me huge file sizes, which drive me crazy, or drive my computer crazy, But these cameras, they're very efficient. I don't know how they do it, but they have very efficient file sizes. So for example, this C100 right here, for 1 hour of recording, it gives me around 8 to 10 GB of file size. And that's good. For 1 hour recording, 8 to 10 GB of file size. Now, again, comparing it to the R5 or the R3, I mean, I don't know, maybe times 4, times 5 of the file size, So for C100, for 1 hour, 8 to 10 gigabytes. Now, for the C300, it's quite bigger because this is a more, it has more bit rate, maybe 50% more bigger than the C100, but still, that's still manageable compared to the modern cinema cameras. And what's good thing about this is these cameras, you can still make them smaller, right? So if you think that for 1 hour, 8 to 10 gigabytes is still big, you can still tone them down. They're still in the settings, in the menu. You can still lower down the bit rate, and you can still crazy amount, much smaller file size. I didn't check, but from there you can still go lower than 8 to 10 GB for 1 hour of recording. So crazy. All right, next reason is you can use these cameras for long recording. I'm talking about very long recording. I mean, you can record it infinitely as long as you have power, because these cameras, they have DC input. So you can hardwire these cameras to the wall. Now, compared to the mirrorless cameras, good luck hardwiring them to the wall. Most of them you cannot. Or you can put them in power bank, but power bank don't last forever. But yeah, so hardwiring these cameras, which very helpful for long hours of recording. Or if you don't want to hardwire them, the batteries of these cameras could last for hours. They have very big batteries, again, compared to mirrorless cameras, which most of them, they usually have very small batteries, but these batteries could last hours. I don't know exactly how long, but could last hours. So again, if you don't want to hardwire them, batteries is an option. Next is they don't overheat. So again, comparing to mirrorless cameras, These cinema cameras, they don't overheat. First thing, because they're huge. Uh, the bigger camera size makes the camera dissipates heat better. And also they don't shoot 4K, so full HD. That's why they don't overheat as much. And also there's a built-in fan inside, right? So since they have a built-in fan, there's no way you can overheat these cameras. I've tried. I've recorded 2-3 hours of podcasting with these cameras. They never overheated. So, and that's one of the biggest reasons why you should use these cameras, because again, mirrorless cameras, almost all of them, they overheat, right? So if you don't want that to happen, and overheating sucks, they're annoying while you overheated on the set, you don't want to put yourself in that situation. So no overheating, cinema cameras. All right, next one is their pricing. So these cinema cameras, when they were announced, they were very, very expensive. So for example, the C100, when this was announced in 2012, this cost for $8,000. Guys, $8,000 in 2012. And the C300 Mark I, when this was announced in 2011, this cost a whopping $20,000, guys. $8,000 and $20,000. Crazy. Back in the day, there was no way that I'm gonna own these cameras. There's no way I could afford $8,000 or let alone $20,000 for these cameras. But this day, you guys can get them for, I don't know, maybe $1,000. Could be more, could be less. So it depends where you're buying them, the condition. So they're very affordable today. Right? So again, if you're looking for, if you're budget conscious and you're looking to get cameras that you can use for podcasting that still could give you amazing results, then these cameras might be a good option for you. Instead of buying the new mirrorless cameras, they're expensive, guys. These mirrorless cameras, I have the R5, the R3, they're very expensive. So if you're concerned with your budget, then try to consider getting secondhand cinema cameras. So yeah. Okay, next one is having full-size HDMI. So if you wanna connect these cameras to a monitor or a TV, like what I'm doing, so these cameras are always connected to the monitor, so I can monitor what's going on. So if something happened with the cameras, maybe it stopped recording, or I ran out of battery or memory card, I can see them through the monitor during the episodes. And that is huge, guys. That is huge. You don't want to put yourself in a situation that you cannot see what's going on in your cameras, especially if you're doing your podcasting alone. Imagine you're in the middle of conversation and you have no idea that the battery died, or you ran out of memory card. And it happened to me back in the day when I was shooting with mirrorless cameras. I was always have anxiety. Like, I don't know what's going on. I couldn't see what's going on with the camera behind me or the camera in front of me, So I was always anxious. And believe me, there were moments that the cameras died on me while filming, and it was a bad experience. Imagine doing it all over again. Doing the episode all over again because you forgot to put a new battery or a bigger memory card. And that sucks. Trust me, it happened to me couple of times, multiple times. So I won't allow that to ever happen to me again. So thanks to the cinema cameras, and I can avoid that issue by just wiring my cameras through HDMI to my TV beside me. So again, if you don't want to experience those issues, consider these cinema cameras because they have full size HDMI. So these modern mirrorless cameras, most of them are using micro HDMI, like the Canon R3 and the R5. They have the micro HDMI, which is annoying, right? They're very annoying to use. You need to get an adapter, and they're very fragile. So yeah, full size HDMI is a good feature to have when you're doing podcasting. All right, next one. This is something that I just recently discovered, and this is the beauty of time code. So these cameras, they have time code built into them. You don't need to buy this time code accessories. So they have built-in time code, and they are helpful, especially if you're trying to sync your video to your software. Like for me, I don't. I know for me, I still do everything manually. So after recording, I copy them to my computer and I sync them in my software, which is Final Cut. So before I was syncing them through audio, right? So I was either trying to align the waveform in my software, or if you do the automatic sync in Final Cut, usually it takes time to align those waveforms because again you're recording massive episodes, right? So aligning them through the software is not that easy. So with timecode, it's much easier. You just need to right click, sync them using timecode, and it's almost instantly. So having a timecode for me is a game changer. And again, mirrorless cameras doesn't have this feature. I'm not sure with other brands, but the cameras that I use, again, they don't have built-in timecode. So yeah, so again, if you want your job to be much easier, try using timecode. All right, next one. This feature, for some of you guys might find this surprising, but these cameras, they have XLR inputs, full-size XLR inputs. So for the C100, there's 2 over here. And for C300, there are 2 XLRs over here. So why having an XLR inputs on your camera is an advantage. So for example, if you don't want to spend an additional money for a recorder, so for me personally, I use a Rodecaster Pro 2 to record my audio. But again, if you don't want to spend more money, you want to ditch having a recorder, you can actually plug your microphone, your XLR microphone, directly to these cameras. And again, save your money from buying a recorder. And that is huge, especially if you're doing run and gun podcast recording. For example, if you are constantly traveling or going to your guests' houses, for example, and you don't want to carry any more recording stuff with you, or if you want to avoid syncing your audio in post, again, you can actually hardwire your microphones directly to these cameras, which saves you, first of all, money and time as well. It's very convenient, right? It's very convenient just having your audio baked into your video. And again, less equipments, means less hassle. And I remember I filmed a podcast episode back in the day for my client. And back then, I still don't have the Rodecaster Pro with me, and I decided to plug my microphone directly to the cameras, which is again very helpful in those kind of situations. So yeah, if you just want to save money or you just to make your life a little bit easier, go plug your microphone directly to these cameras. It's very, very helpful. Okay, so last feature on my list, these cameras have dual card slot recording. So the C100 accepts 2 SD cards, which are located in here. And the C300 accepts CF card, the original CF card, which are located in here. So why is it important to have dual card slot recording? I think this is very self-explanatory. Having an instant backup is very, very critical, especially if you're doing long podcast sessions, or if you're interviewing a very high important person. Trust me, you don't want to be losing those files. That's the last thing you want to be telling this guest is can we record the session all over again because the card get corrupted. You don't want to be in that situation. Trust me. Now, comparing this to mirrorless cameras, yes, there's a lot of mirrorless cameras with dual card slots, but not all of them can record videos in both card slots at the same time. So again, in my situation, I use the R3 and the R5, and I cannot record videos in both card slots at the same time. I don't know why. I don't know the reason. I mean, for me, I have dual card slot. I should be able to record both of them, at the same time, but apparently I cannot. So yeah, with these cameras, no issue. You can record with 2 card slots at the same time. So instant backup with cinema cameras, good feature. Okay, so now we're done with the advantages of these cinema cameras. Now let's go through the downsides of these cinema cameras in particular. Okay, so first, again, these cameras are not 4K cameras, but technically they have 4K sensor, but they downsample the footage into Full HD or 1080p, But again, 1080p is very much acceptable in podcasting because you know what, most viewers or listeners usually they don't really watch or concentrate on watching videos, podcasting. If you think about it, most of them either they're doing something, either they're washing dishes, they're cleaning, or if they're at work, they're in the office or while they're working, they're usually just listening to the audio, all while they're driving. So podcast viewers are not really concentrating on the visuals. That's what I'm trying to say. So 1080p again is very acceptable in podcasting, and you will not really going to do a lot of crazy zoom in or compositing with this footage. So again, for me, 1080p is very much okay in podcasting. Next downside of the cinema cameras is autofocus. So the C300 doesn't even have autofocus at all, only manual focus. And the C100, yes, it has autofocus, but it's not good autofocus. It's terrible autofocus, especially comparing to recent mirrorless cameras. So, but again, they were released 15, 14 years ago, so it's just acceptable that they don't have good autofocusing system. But, if you're filming a podcast, most of the time or 100% of the time, these cameras are on a tripod and your guests are most probably just sitting down. They're not moving around. So having autofocus is not really helpful when you're producing podcast episodes. So for me, whenever I shoot podcasts, all of them are in manual focusing mode. Okay, believe me, back when I started, I was shooting with these cameras, the R3 and the R5. I was using autofocus, and they were unreliable. You'll just never know. You never know if your guest raise their hand, then all of a sudden the focusing jumps to their hand and is stuck on there, or maybe I don't know, maybe some of them move far back, or sometimes the focusing actually goes to the background. So autofocusing is not reliable at all when you're filming podcasting. So I would highly suggest when you're doing podcasting, always shoot in manual focusing. So yeah. Next downside is these cinema cameras are big and heavy. So if you are the type of podcaster that goes to your guests' houses to film them, this might not be a good option for you because again, they're massive, they're heavy, it's not easy to move around. So yeah, it's something you need to consider. So if you're trying to be as light as possible, then yes, go for the mirrorless cameras. But for me, that is not an issue. I have a car, and podcasting is a kind of a very slow-paced kind of job. So for me, I don't mind having big cameras. So it's not totally a downside for me. And the last disadvantage on my list is these cinema cameras are not as sharp as modern mirrorless cameras. Because again, these cameras were released 15, 14 years ago. So obviously they don't have the same sharpness or the same look as modern mirrorless cameras. But keep in mind, these are cinema cameras. So it gives kind of a soft, unique cinema look to them, and which I really like. A lot of my viewers actually always ask me what cameras do I use because they look different. They look unique, and they were always surprised when I tell them that these are shot with cinema cameras. Just go to my first few episodes. I was using the R3 and the R5. Yes, they were very sharp. They look modern, but compared to 30 episodes and above, they look very different. These cameras just looks way different to my first few episodes because again, they're very unique. They look cinematic, So if you want to have some very distinct, creative look into your podcast, then consider grabbing cinema cameras because again, they're cinema cameras and it would give you very distinct, classic cinema look. All right, guys, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this short video highlighting the advantages and disadvantages of using cinema cameras for podcasting. So again, if you are a beginner podcaster and you're looking for your first cameras, try to consider grabbing cinema cameras for your podcast channel. So again, guys, thank you so much and keep tuning in.